Hello on this wonderful day. Don't know how long before anybody joins. My sound shows that it's working, so I hope that it is. Let me just double check. Uh-oh, my light is playing with me. Uh-oh, my light is playing with me. All right. My sound is working. All right. So tonight, this hoodie keeps lighting up on me, choking me. Tonight I'm going to be talking about the not all of the tasks that psychiatric service dogs can perform, but just some of the tasks in general, and some of the tasks that Mona provides. Mona is my personal dog, service dog, and just talk about some of the tasks that Mona performs specifically for me. And then we'll talk about some of the things that you definitely need to think about before you look at investing in a service dog, and weighing the pros and cons of the investment, because it's not just a monetary investment in a service dog. It's a long-term investment. So there's, positives and negatives, and it's things to definitely be aware of and be conscious of and be willing to invest before you invest the monetary value of a service dog. So, and there are different levels of that monetary investment. So, those are just some things to think about, and I wanted to talk about that. So, psychiatric service dog is a dog that performs tasks for mental disabilities, mental health disabilities. Again, this is not an exhaustive list. This is just an overview of some of the tasks that a dog can be trained to perform. A lot of it is grounding tasks. And grounding can be done in many different ways. Those that suffer with anxiety and disassociation issues, grounding is a good way to be able to deal with those issues. And that can look, grounding tasks can look different for each individual and for each dog. It really depends on what is the easiest to train the dog to do and what the individual responds the best to. So I'm just going to kind of talk about some of those tasks. Grounding tasks can include brushing against the side of a person when they're getting anxious in public, sitting on the person's feet or standing on the person's feet when they're standing still but feeling anxious, kissing or licking a person's hand or face, partially lying on a person and licking the person's face when they're having nightmares or night terrors. These tasks can be helpful for, I've written some of this stuff out. So these tasks can be helpful for anxiety, canatotic behavior. And this is a group of symptoms, and usually involves a lack of movement and lack of communication. It can also include agitation, confusion, and restlessness, delusions, disorganized speech behavior, disassociation, flashbacks or distress, insomnia, psychosis, self-mutilation, sensitivity to sound, sensory overload, sleep disturbances, startle responses, self-deletion ideation. So a lot of these mental health crisis and issues respond well to grounding techniques, and service dogs, psychiatric service dogs, can be trained to respond to these. Psychiatric service dogs can also provide alerts to the initial stages or the beginning processes of the behavior, or when we're just beginning to have an emotional response. Psychiatric service dogs can cue into those initial responses and alert before we're consciously aware of those responses. In some cases, that allows us to put ourselves in a position to where if we might need to sit down or remove ourselves from a situation, we're able to do so safely. So alerting can be helpful for picking up changes in our breathing patterns, emotional escalation, hyperfocus, increase in heart rate, irritability, muscle tension, pounding heart rate or pounding heart, restlessness. In some cases, these responses can become so severe that we may need assistance, and these service dogs can be trained to fetch that assistance. Psychiatric service dogs can be trained to guide handlers to a safe place. This can be helpful for anxiety, disorientation or confusion, disassociative issues, fear, feeling overwhelmed, fight or flight response, psychomotor retardation. And this is not calling anybody the R word. This is just simply a term that's used to describe a slowing of motor skills, and is usually seen a lot in major depression. So it can slow down your motor skills and your cognitive thinking. Deep pressure therapy is another task that psychiatric service dogs can perform. This is used as a calming strategy. I've talked about this a little bit before, that the weight or the pressure of the dog pressing into the body can actually stimulate the nervous system and reset from a fight or flight. And the pressure can reset the body's nervous system into a rest and relax. Just a few examples of what this task can help with: anxiety, apathy and disengagement, depersonalization, derealization, difficulty initiating movement, disassociation, disassociative flashback, fear, feelings of isolation, fight or flight responses, hypervigilance, increase in heart rate, intrusive thoughts or images, pounding heart, racing thoughts, restlessness, sadness or tearfulness, sensory overload, self-deletion, ideation, and trembling episodes. Can also help with chills, which is quite common when with sensory overload. Disorganization, insomnia, memory loss. Psychiatric service dogs can also be trained for important task reminders. Memory loss being one of them. Memory loss would include the dog reminding for medications, helping to find keys, find important things. Sometimes during severe psychiatric instances or issues, sometimes the patient or the person can become confused, and so the dog can help with leading to the person to someone that can help. So that is another task that they can be trained for. Psychiatric service dogs can also brace or counterbalance. Although it's not directly a psychiatric issue, but there are some side effects from medications, or also common in people who live with psychiatric disabilities. We do sometimes experience episodes of dizziness, being off balance, just in general. And the psychiatric service dog can be trained to assist in helping us in those instances. In some cases, those who are on medication, those medications can also cause cases of severe dizziness, feelings of being off balance, just in general, not being able to stand for long periods of time, especially when you're trying to situate new medications, trying new medications, adjusting medications. That can sometimes kind of throw you off while your brain chemistry adjusts to all of the medication levels. And while that happens, that sometimes can throw things for a little bit of a loop. So having a psychiatric service dog can help with, balance issues and whatnot. So that makes it almost a dual purpose, but not quite. But the balance issues and stability issues are quite often associated with a small time task that psychiatric service dogs can be trained for. Some other less common things that psychiatric service dogs can be trained for those who have hallucinations. Psychiatric service dogs can be trained for hallucination discernment. In that case, they are trained to help the person determine what is real and what is not in the case of a hallucination. The dog cannot tell what the person is seeing, but based on how the dog is reacting, the person can tell what is real and what is not. Hypersomnia, which is the opposite of insomnia, but not quite narcolepsy. Narcolepsy is an actual neurological disorder. Hypersomnia is similar, but with unknown causes. So with narcolepsy, you cannot stay awake. You will physically fall asleep doing anything. With hypersomnia, you will fall asleep. But if you keep yourself going or moving or, keep yourself busy, it's less likely that you will fall asleep. With a psychiatric service dog, they can be trained to wake up the person when they fall asleep throughout the day. With narcolepsy, you can't wake that person up until their brain says to wake up. So it's similar to narcolepsy, but a little bit different. Psychiatric service dogs can also be trained to help gently wake a person who is dealing with night terrors and nightmares. That is something that is good for those who have had a lot of trauma and are trauma survivors. A lot of times as survivors, we have flashbacks and we have nightmares, and psychiatric service dogs can be trained to wake us during those nightmares and night terrors. And generally they do so in a way that doesn't trigger us to lash out like we tend to do when people try to wake us. Another class, another group of people that will have night terrors are soldiers. This is also something else that goes along with something that soldiers and returning soldiers deal with a lot. PTSD. Night terrors are very common with PTSD. And so is entering empty rooms and empty buildings and empty houses. Psychiatric service dogs can be trained to enter first and clear a house, not aggressive. That is, for those that are suffering with that type of PTSD symptom, that can be very triggering to try to walk into an unknown space. Or if they've been away from a space for any amount of time and are coming back, it can be very triggering to walk into, a space that they have not been in for some time and not know what's there. So psychiatric service dogs can actually be trained to clear an area before a person walks in. Hypervigilance. Again, this tends to be a lot of times associated with those suffering with PTSD, a lot of times seen in returning soldiers. A psychiatric service dog can really help with that. A lot of times what they'll do is the dog will take over a lot of that vigilance And that helps the person to not be quite as vigilant because the dog is watching their six. I mentioned memory loss already. This is a big one. A lot of people who suffer from major depression. Another example is, again, when you're trying out new medications, when you're adjusting medications, memory loss or memory fog can become a big issue, and you may misplace things over time. That can become a big enough issue that you can train your dog, your service dog, to be able to find your keys, find your wallet, find your telephone, and bring those items to you. So it's a very helpful task if that isn't memory loss or memory fog is a big issue for you. That's a task that you can train your dog to perform for you. If you have sensitivity to sounds or a startle response, and you struggle with being scared easily, having a psychiatric service dog to close doors behind you, to, if block from behind, or space, performing crowd control, those things things like that can really help to take some of that added stress off of you and reduce some of those issues. A lot of people who have mental health struggles tend to withdraw socially. Having a service dog helps us to not withdraw, or at least minimize the withdrawal. So it can keep us active enough socially so that we don't completely disconnect from the world. That is a big struggle for a lot of people who have mental health issues and struggles. It is a struggle that I've had. It is a struggle that a lot of people that I personally know have had. It is hard to have mental health issues and appear normal. Because you don't want anybody else looking at you differently. You don't want anybody else to know. So when it gets harder to mask, and the harder it gets to mask, the easier it is to withdraw socially. So having a service dog helps keep us involved socially. It helps keep us motivated to stay social, even as hard as it is sometimes. So those are just, like I said, an overview of some of the tasks and some of the issues that a psychiatric service dog can be trained for and can help with. Now, I did mention in the beginning that there are pros and cons to having a service dog, just like with everything in life. So I have a list of a few things that these are something that you, before you even think about trying to either invest in a trained service dog or training your own, these are things that you need to seriously think about and be aware of. Number one, caring for a service dog may be difficult. Dogs aren't for everybody. If you're not a dog person, having a service dog may not be the thing for you. I'm not saying that as a bad thing. I'm not saying that to call anybody out. But that is the reality. If dogs aren't for everybody, you might have some limitations that make having a dog difficult. And you need to weigh the cost of that. You need to weigh the reality of that. Having to take a dog with you everywhere you go can be exhausting. It can be stressful. It's not always easy. And I do it all the time. Is that something you can handle? And you have to be honest with yourself. If you're not going to be honest with anybody else, you have to be honest with yourself. Can you handle that? Service dogs have bad days too. They are living, breathing creatures. And just like us, they have good days and bad days. They're going to have days where all they want to do is play. They don't want to work. They just want to play. They're going to have days where they just don't feel good. They feel icky and they can't describe it. They can't tell you what's going on and why they feel icky. They just feel icky. So they don't want to work. And that's okay. They're living, breathing creatures. And we have to honor the fact that they're going to have good days and bad days, just like we do. It takes a lot of time and money to get a trained service dog. It does. And the more tasks that you are looking to have trained for, the more it's going to cost. I am being 100% upfront and honest. It's not cheap. A fully trained service dog for seizure response or seeing or hearing aid can cost as much as a car. I'm not kidding. They are specifically trained for those tasks, for those needs. And you need special trainers for those tasks. Because those tasks are so specific and the needs for that person, for what that is needed, you need a specialized trainer for those. And it's going to cost. So I'm being real. It's not cheap. You have these trainers that go to school and they work for decades to build the skills to train these dogs to do these tasks. And in the end, the dog that you get is amazing. And it is a testament to the time that these people have put into their education and their craft to train these dogs. And you will pay for that. There are some tasks for some things that you can train yourself. I am training my service dog. I am a basic trainer. I would never try to train a dog for a seizure response, for a seeing eye dog, or a hearing aid dog. I would never try to train a dog for those tasks. Those tasks take specialized trainers. That's not me. Other tasks I can train for. Those tasks I can't. I have no experience for the need of people who need those dogs. I have no experience for that. I would have no way to effectively train dogs to effectively respond to those situations. So if I had a client that needed that specific type of training, I would have to recommend them out to somebody who is certified for that kind of training, because I'm not even going to attempt it. So, like I said, there are some things that you can train yourself, and there are some things that are best left to the professionals. If you have something that is best left to the professionals that needs to be trained, be prepared to pay for it. In the end, it is best if that's the case. You don't want to train for a task that should be done by a professional, and the dog end up not being able to perform that task properly, the way it needs to be done. So, then the next con in the vast overview of dogs in general, very few dogs can actually handle being a service dog. That is not a jab. That is not, downing any breed, nothing. That is the reality. Even these training schools and training facilities that breed and have breeding lines that they have and train their own dogs and sell their own dogs. Even these facilities have dogs that wash out, that fail out of the program, because not every dog is made out and can hold up to the tasks and the responsibility of being a service dog. And you need to be aware of that, especially if you're looking to rescue a dog for service work. Planning ahead is a must. If you plan to travel, you need to know where you're going. You need to know what's required. If you're planning on staying long term, you need to know what the residence status, length of time for residency, all of that. You need to make sure you have all the proper documentation for vaccinations. If you're flying, you need to make sure that you look ahead and contact the airline directly to find out what's required for flying. You have to plan ahead for everything. Carrying food, carrying water. I mean, it's how long are you going to be away from home? If you're going to be gone all day, how much food do you need to take? Do you feed during the day, or do you feed at night or in the morning? I mean, you have to plan ahead. Everything is planned ahead. If you've rescued a dog and they fail as being a service dog, what are you going to do? Are you going to keep them as a pet? Or are you going to have to rehome? Something to think about. Can you handle rehoming multiple dogs while you're looking for the dog that can be your next service dog or be your first service dog? Is that something that you emotionally and mentally can handle? This is something to think about. They cost time and money to maintain. There is a higher standard of hygiene that comes with having a service dog. Hold that thought. I have a mini me coming down the stairs. Yes, love? Yes. Because there's a slight delay. Okay. It just is. There is a higher standard of hygiene that comes with having service dogs. Not yet. Okay. I love you too. I got it right here. And you need to be prepared if you're going to maintain that hygiene. You need to know how and how to do so properly. If you can't physically or you just don't have the time and you're going to have the dog professionally groomed, can you mitigate the cost of having the dog professionally groomed more often? Something to keep in the back of your mind. The actual career of a service dog is not quite as long as you would think. You have to think about that and how you want to rotate your dog. When you feel that one dog may be nearing retirement, how do you want to proceed with the new dog? Do you want a new dog? Are you going to buy a trained dog or are you going to train yourself? How are you going to manage training one dog while still handling your current dog? These are all things that you need to think about and be aware of. And the final, and this is one I know all too well. When you lose a service dog, it is literally like you lose a piece of your soul. Excuse me. Can you handle that? Because it is hard. Your psychiatric service dog becomes a lifeline. And when you lose them, it is hard. because we invest so much into them. And they become so important for us. When we lose them, it's hard.
I saw you crying. I said, nah, bro, this girl crying. I gotta go give her a hug. Yeah, yeah.
I love you too.
Wait, I gotta see when you do it.
Then go watch. I will do it.
I love you.
I love you too, baby.
Make me sad now.
Okay.
Better. I demand you to.
Okay. So, while we all love our pets, and we love them fiercely, and we love them dearly, service dogs, because they are literally our lifelines and our ability to function in some cases. We tend to have much deeper emotional connections to them. And the loss of one can be very, very deep. And that is something that you have to be you have to know the possibility, of that when that happens. And you have to know that that will happen. So, sadly, I wish they lived as long as we did. But unfortunately, they do not. So, I did not mean to cry, and I do apologize. But that's a pretty good overview of, and a little bit more of a breakdown of more of what psychiatric service dogs are for, and some of the tasks that they can perform. On to why I have one. I have depression, anxiety, and severe insomnia. If I don't take medication, I don't sleep. Even with the medication, I don't sleep deeply. But at least I average 5 to 7 hours of sleep. before the medication, I would average about 2 hours of sleep a night. And that was more like catnapping. I have had the depression and anxiety since I was 10, as well as the insomnia. I'm 41. And as I have gotten older, the depression itself hasn't really gotten worse. The insomnia has. And
Are you taking your meds?
yes, I am.
You better be.
I am. That's my oldest.
My heart.
Yes, I'm taking my meds. Don't worry. You misunderstood. But you that was loud, girlfriend.
I don't care.
All good. All good.
You're mean.
She misunderstood.
You're mean.
She thought I stopped taking my medication. I didn't.
My face was just said that. I was like, what?
No, I didn't.
Not
I
on
promise.
my watch.
I promise.
Yeah, you ain't doing that on my watch.
No, I didn't.
Because I like having you sleep.
She likes having me sleep.
I like it. So if
Okay.
I find out you quit taking your meds,
I don't
I'll
plan
tell
on
Dr. Vu.
it. Trust me, I don't plan on it.
Yeah,
I
I'll tell
like-
Dr. Vu.
I like sleeping, so it's all good.
Yeah, I'll tell Dog. He
I'm-
wouldn't be happy.
No, he would not. He would not be happy with me at all.
Mhm.
All good.
Yes, you're not me when you like when we like having you sleep.
Okay. Okay, but
Hey, come on, sus.
I'm live. Toodaloo Magoo.
She's waiting till you.
Okay, I will. All right.
That.
So, unfortunately, while my depression hasn't gotten a ton of, it comes and goes. I have long periods of really good time, and then I have short periods where it gets the best of me. But my anxiety seems to be, and my insomnia seems to be where I struggle the most over the years. And no, I'm good. I'm good. As I got older, I struggled really bad.
Black cherry.
Yes, it is black cherry. That's why you didn't like it. I didn't tell her beforehand. That's what you get for taking a drink out of my bottle. Black cherry. But over the years, I struggled more and more with anxiety, and that evolved into more social settings as well. It got to the point where I didn't do social at all by myself. I have my lobby at my shop set up in a way that it only allows 2 people comfortably, not counting myself, in at a time. One, I did that for safety, and 2, for comfort. That way I can limit how many people come into the lobby with their dogs at a time. So it was a safety issue as well as a comfort issue. I don't do social at all by myself. In the last few months since I've adopted Mona and begun her training after losing my previous service dog, Mona has taken to her training so quickly that it is literally unheard of how quickly she has taken to her training. It typically can take up to at least 2 years for training for a service dog. I have only had Mona since the beginning of October. The plus side was she already had basic obedience before I adopted her, so that helps. So I was able to start right away with just reinforcing her basic obedience and start right away with her task training. And she is so smart. She picked it up within just a couple weeks. So I am in a very unique situation with her where she is like picking tasks up like this and taking right to her training, and has done extremely well. That is not the normal situation for the average owner-trained service dog. That's the reality. I am lucky. But Mona has already done a lot to open the door for me. I have been alone or on my own more since October, when we adopted her, than I have in probably the last 3 years combined. Because I rarely even went to work by myself. I almost never was by myself. The only place that I was comfortable with being alone was at home. So my anxiety had gotten to that point and had been for many years. So having Mona and having that security of having somebody, or in this case, something that is always going to have my back, that is always going to be a second pair of eyes for me. I also have some mobility issues. So having her there in case I'm having a bad day and I need a little bit of assistance and stability, she literally will walk on my leg, which means she's like glued to my leg, to constantly remind me to watch my step, to constantly, just make me constantly focus on where I'm stepping, what I'm doing. how I'm putting my feet and placing my feet so I don't stumble or fall. I'm not as scared about going out by myself as I was before. I'm not as scared about falling out in public as I was before. Because Mona is a dual purpose service dog. Not only is she a psychiatric service dog, but she's also a mobility aid. Mona also is for my insomnia.
I like watching myself at night.
I know you do, Goofy. She performs. I move a lot in my sleep. For what little bit of sleep I do get, I move so much that I wake myself up, and it keeps me from sleeping deeply. Mona will basically pin me down. She'll pin me against the, I don't sleep on a normal bed. It's more like one of the convertible couches is what I sleep on. And this is part of why. Stop. I will show it when.
I want to go watch Dorian.
Okay, give me a minute. Goofy. Anyways, there's a reason I sleep on that kind of bed. Because that way she can pin me up against the back, and she will literally scoot so close to me and pin me against the back so I am still. My other service dog, what he would do is he would actually, let me plug in my computer and the battery's getting low. He would actually, there it goes. He would actually sleep on my back or on my legs because he was a miniature dachshund, so he was quite small. Mona is a land hippo. She's quite a bit larger, so she will physically pin me so I can't move. So that is partially, or when I'm having a really bad night, or if I wake up in a bit of a panic, she will actually lay across me, across my torso, and perform deep pressure therapy, which I had mentioned earlier. And I've mentioned it before. It's basically where she puts pressure on my body. Sometimes if I'm standing, she'll jump up on me and press into my belly or into my, torso. Or she will hug me and lean her head and her chest into me. And what that does is it stimulates the nervous system. And the nervous system in the body's response will go from fight or flight, and it resets the nervous system into a rest and relax. And the DPT helps with insomnia. It also helps. I don't necessarily have night terrors. I just wake up sometimes in the middle of the night in a bit of a panic. It's not a full-blown panic attack. I don't have dreams. So it's not that I'm waking up from a bad dream. I just wake up in a bit of a panic. And her response is immediately to cover in DPT. Again, that's DPT, deep pressure therapy, to reset my body. So those are some of the tasks that she performs for my own personal issues. I don't think it's going to stay. It won't. I don't think so.
Why not?
I don't know. But we can't put anything on top because that's my mute button. See? That's my mute button.
Right there.
So these are some of the individual tasks. We're going to turn it that way. There we go.
Still.
That Mona performs for me
Hmm.
and for my own personal issues. So just
Wait,
my daughter. Now, I'm originally from Florida. I grew up in Florida, Central Florida. My daughter, this one, Midget. That's one of her nicknames is Midget. 3D printed this little alligator for me because I'm from Florida. Is that not the cutest? And it's like this, it's not even like green. It's like this tealy green. It is just, yeah, it's the coolest color. This thing is so cool. It is so cool. All right. You're so goofy. I'm serious. I'm going to put it on the back of my lamp right here so I see it every time I come down the stairs. Right there. Yep, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put it right there on the back of my lamp. I don't know how I'm going to put it on there yet, but I will. I'm not duct taping my lamp.
Or you can Velcro it.
That's
Or tie
possible.
it.
I might tie it. I don't know. Okay. So.
Okay, I can go watch Starman now.
All right, love.
I love watching.
Okay.
Does it teach me I'm not a good night?
Yes, it does.
So I'm gonna watch Starman.
Okay, you go watch Starman.
There's not one I haven't seen yet. But
Okay.
what this week watch? Oh.
Okay.
I'm gonna talk all night and make it.
Okay. Well, you've got that template now, so you should be good to go. Okay. Love you. Hi, Red. How are you, my dear? Oh my goodness, has it been an hour already? Wow. Wow. Doesn't feel like it. So, I don't know how long you've been here. I don't know what all you've seen. It has its moments, that's for sure. Definitely has its moments. That one is full of it, though. She is something else. Okay. Well, on that note, then, I have gone over everything I wanted to talk about. Just was going over some of the different issues that a psychiatric service dog can help with and some of the different tasks that they can perform. And then just a little bit of my own issues and some of the things that Mona does specifically for me. And then, you know, how she helps me. So, unless you have any questions. Yes. Yeah, I've actually had a lot of people locally have asked me a lot of questions, and while I can help them and answer those questions in person, it just, I keep those little nuggets in the back of my mind and things that maybe I can come on and a lot more people may have questions for, and I kind of gather those and I try to address them, you know, if I feel it's something that may be pretty important or more people need to know. It may it needs to be out there. You guys kind of already have an idea of how I am anyways. I'm not the type of person to kind of just keep that information to myself. I share that. I mean, I had somebody stop me in the grocery store this afternoon and was asking me some questions about, what's the proper way to go about getting a service dog, and, how, what's the requirements and everything. And, what they need to do to get to eventually maybe one day have one of their dogs as a legitimate service dog. And so these are things that if I'm going to have these questions from a lot of people here in this little 4,000 person town, it's probably going to be more prevalent in the internets. So, if I can share that knowledge here, why can't I share it everywhere? So that's why I keep doing these, because it's information that needs to get out. There's just been so many fake and so much fake that it's really given a lot of us legitimate a hard time. And if we're going to fix that or reverse that, we've got to start doing it the right way. So yes. I've always been pretty open about the fact that I have depression and anxiety and horrific insomnia. I will one day share my story. Unfortunately, I got some information over at the weekend last week that I need to process. And that's going to be delaying that a little bit because it changes things a little bit. And I don't know how to feel aside from really angry. But it is part of my story. It explains a little bit. Actually explains a lot. And I want this to be included in that. So I need to process this information enough that I'm not angry. Before I can share. And I am not there. It's going to be a hot minute before I'm there. And that's okay. There was never a time limit or a time frame. My story is one of survival. My story is one that shows that if you never give up, there is always hope. That if you never give up, there is always the chance of something better. And I have busted my ass for that. But it hasn't been easy. Not easy at all. So, I have a husband who loves me dearly. Two wonderful kids. Some family that would move heaven and earth for me. Other family that wouldn't. And that's okay. It's okay. I want to share my story, like I said, because the one thing that has always gotten me through everything is the hope that there's something better. And there is. Doesn't mean that there's not something that's going to come back and, you'll have to work through, like I'm dealing with right now. But if I've gotten through everything else, I can get through this too. It's just made some decisions that I have made that much more firm. And those connections that I've severed will continue, and they are final, concrete, buried, done. Absolutely no chance. And I have to do that for me. So I have to do that for me. Thank you. I've been through hell. But like I said, I have a wonderful man that loves me dearly. And two beautiful kids. I can't ask for anything more. I have a wonderful, wonderful group of friends here that I consider family. They took me in, and my cousin was married into that family. It's a very large family. And sadly, when we lost him to self-deletion several years ago, I backed off because I didn't want to interfere with that family. As long as I still was able to have a relationship with his children, I was going to leave it at that because I didn't want to interfere with their family. till they showed up in my driveway. All the women. And flat out told me that I belong to them. So I have my self-made family. And I wouldn't change them for the world. All of them. So that was probably one of the most emotional moments of my life. When somebody that I had no blood ties to looked me dead in the eye and said that I belong to them. Done. So I have my self-made family here. And that sometimes is all you need to get through some really crappy situations. So and trust me, we fight like normal siblings do. So yeah. I love them to pieces. Every last one of them. So I wouldn't change it for the world. But it's not been an easy road, that's for sure. And I'm pretty sure when I do tell my story, it's going to probably be a couple hours. At least. At least. And it's going to be a little minute before I do. I've got to work through this. Got to deal with this. So, all right. I think that's going to be it. Unless you have any other questions. I know you missed most of the information part. Yes, self-care is, that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm in self-care mode right now while I deal. And then we'll go from there. So, bye, Sophia. All right, I will see you a little bit later, Red. Anybody else? Have a wonderful evening. We'll see you later.